personalized and differentiated learning solutions, mobile devices and applications, the flipped classroom, social learning tools, gamification, adaptive learning, to name just a few. Technologies and concepts like these, when they're applied well, and that's very important, in a well-designed, methodically delivered academic application, they're being shown every day to enable students to take more control of their own learning, enable teachers to more easily differentiate and personalize learning, and ultimately improve learning outcomes. How do we know it can work? Where's the proof that it can work? Well, the body of evidence is growing every day. Let's go ahead and take a look at some studies and some success stories. So I'm going to start again at the high level here. We're going to look at a few institutions, two of which were designed from the ground up to do this, one of which just chose to dynamically change the nature of how it was doing what it was doing, and then we're going to drill down a little bit to smaller examples. Carpe Diem Collegiate High School, pretty fascinating. And I know we're in higher ed, and there are some high school examples here, but it can relate pretty well. These guys managed a couple of years ago to change how they were doing what they were doing. Well, really, when they introduced their programs, they consciously wanted to go in and address problems like the very poor rate of percentage of students performing at proficient on standardized exams. And through the nature of the program that they were introduced, they were able in 2010 to get 92% of their students performing at proficient or better versus the county and state averages of 57 and 65%. What did they do? Well, they designed their school from the ground up based around the student, not the bureaucracy. They embraced the fact that today's student is wired, and this is just one of the elements they tap into to create a positive, enriching, empowering experience for students. They've taken the flipped classroom model and they've evolved it a bit. Students spend a part of their day working at computers in individualized online programs, and then they move into the classroom and work with the teacher and with other students, applying what they're learning and reinforcing it. They embrace individualized learning and incorporate many adaptive techniques in what they're doing, and this enables the students to move at their own pace, so self-paced learning, and it helps teachers identify when and where their help is needed so they can deliver it at the right time. Subject mastery, not course completion, is their touchstone. They're accredited by a regional accreditor and Advanced Ed, another accreditor as well. And they're now providing offerings since then. They've extended to 6th through 12th grade. So now they have the luxury of being designed that way from the ground up. Mooresville Graded School District consciously said, we need to change what we're doing. So back in 2007, when they were doing their strategic planning, they developed what they call the digital conversion doctrine based upon a number of beliefs. Some of those include decisions were to be data-driven and student-centered, technology-enriched, relevant curriculum, and effective delivery of the curriculum are foundations of 21st century learning, and 21st century content like global awareness, civic literacy, financial literacy, health awareness are integrated into core areas. Part of their philosophy was that district success hinges on embracing all students within an environment of pervasive caring. So you see, as you start to hear this, this was not predominantly about the tech. The tech was an enabler of the philosophy. Every student is, this belief that every student is successful when provided high expectations and sufficient support. And it's been really cool as I've sat through various sessions, and I'm hearing these things echoed. So while they drove much of their approach with technology, the tech was used to facilitate student-centric objectives. It wasn't tech for tech's sake. It was about the things that needed to happen. Here's some of their impressive results. $7,415 per year per student. That ranks them as 100th out of 115 districts in per student spending. But in the meanwhile, they're second in graduation rates and third in test scores across the state. That's pretty impressive. 88% of students met proficiency standards in reading, math, and science in 2011 compared to 73% 3 years ago. Their graduation rate was 91% in 2011 compared to 80% in 2008. So they've been very successful with this. Western Governors University. Similar in a lot of ways to what we heard from University Now, but a couple of notable differences. First of all, they've been at it a lot longer. One thing that blows my mind about this is that 19 governors got together and did this. Who said government couldn't work effectively? That still just shocks me. But it started back in 1996, and they wanted to address rapid population growth and limited public funds. And they were able to do it. They worked with an accrediting body, and they worked with the National Center for Higher Education Management Systems to design this institution from the ground up around these 5 themes: responsiveness to employment and societal needs, a focus on competency-based education, expanding access, cost effectiveness, and development of a technology infrastructure. So they have a competency-based approach, much like we saw with University Now. I won't elaborate on that, but it comes down to mastery of the subject, and seat time has nothing to do with how they're delivering on their promise. Key technology elements include a foundation of technology, flexible course delivery, online learning communities, and a robust online library. And in mid-2012, their retention rate was 79%, compared to an average, according to the U.S. News & World Report, of about 75% across all institutions. And the key thing here is they're an exclusively online institution, and that's phenomenal retention for an online institution. Some of their other impressive statistics: they perform very well on national discipline-specific exams. When employers are asked about the students coming out of these institutions, 97% are saying that these graduates, their preparation for the workforce is good to excellent, and 98% are saying that these folks are coming in as competent or better than other graduates of colleges and universities. And there's a link here to learn more about student perceptions, which are also very impressive. So there we have Western Governors. So there we've seen 3 institutions that went after this. But again, it's very important to understand you don't have to go back and try and reinvent your institution. You can start on a smaller scale. So we're going to bring it down a little bit. I'm a big advocate of the flipped classroom. So there's a lot of evidence coming in about this. And here, we can talk about small scale. An article not too long ago came out in The Economist about the University of British Columbia and how they ran a study with 850 students in which the first 11 weeks of a physics class, a required physics class, they delivered to all these students the traditional lecture methodologies, and in the 12th week, they split the group in 2, delivered one of them. They didn't even prepare a bunch of fancy content. They went and they read the textbooks, and the key was they spent the class time working together on assignments and problem solving and discussions, and then the other group continued in the normal mode. And an important thing about the flipped classroom, which you've probably been learning more about, is it's ultimately about how you spend class time. That's why you're moving that lecture content out to be consumed offline, or however else you choose to do that content, because you're changing the nature of what you can do in the class. And when you can spend time together applying the content, it can become so much more meaningful. At the end of the 12th week, they were all given a test to determine how they did with the acquisition of content over the entire 12 weeks. And the group that had standard lecture delivery for the entire 12-week time frame scored an average of 41%, and the group that had flipped delivery in the 12th week had an average of 74% on this exam. There's a little graphic there to illustrate it. This professor made the kind of bold statement that their result was the biggest performance boost ever documented in educational research. I don't know if that's a bit of a stretch, but it was certainly impressive that just 1 week of flipped delivery yielded these impressive results. Looking further at flipped delivery, Clintondale High School, there's a bunch of good information about these folks out there on the web and what they've done. They were struggling with pass rates across the board, particularly with their at-risk students. And in the 2009-2010 timeframe, they were looking at this and just decided it just wasn't acceptable. They had to do something about it. I haven't really come across what led them down the road to the flip. The flip was pretty early in that time frame. You weren't hearing a lot about it, but they came across the idea and they gave it a shot. They tried it out in a freshman at-risk social studies class, and every student passed the class, which was absolutely not the norm. And meanwhile, the other folks in the same freshman social studies classes and throughout the rest of the grade, the pass rate was unchanged. So they decided that they were going to expand upon this and take it into their freshman classes and then allow it to flow to the rest of the grade levels each year. So teachers would videotape their classroom lectures, have students watch the videos, homework, and use other resources as well. And then in the classroom, the teachers worked with students on individual assignments and facilitated collaborative learning in small groups. So right off the bat, the amount of one-to-one time that the students were getting with their teachers increased by a factor of 4. They were getting to know their students better, personalized learning and assessment, and improved student skills and understanding. In 2012, even though the graduating class had only been through this model for about half of their term there over the course of the year, the graduation rate jumped from 80 to 90%, and the folks that went on to college jumped from 73 to 80%. Here we have a graph showing how in 2012 in grade 11 in the school, in all 5 of the areas of the standard state tests, the average performance increased. And the most impressive one being in reading, from 24 to 34. So it was very impactful, and this illustrates that as well. A quote from the principal explaining how teachers feel good at night knowing that they've done something that has been very positive for the students. The flipped approach frees up classroom time so teachers can spend more time with their students, helping them master the topics, deepen relationships, and build critical thinking skills. Another site that's interesting and has begun to collect these success stories is Project Red, which is at projectred.org. And I just grabbed a few of the, they have a place where they encourage people to submit their success stories, and they shared a few of them out there. So here's one at a small school that implemented, this is in the K-12 range, so 4th through 9th grade specifically, they implemented one-to-one laptop programs and saw some impressive results. Student attendance, engagement, and achievement improved, resulting in the ultimate goal of keeping students in school and on the path to graduation. Another interesting thing about some of these programs when they are engaging is they decrease discipline problems. Now, I know we're in higher ed and we shouldn't see that, but I'm sure I'm not the only one who's ever heard or referred to incoming students as coming into 13th grade, and sometimes there's still some of those challenges. So it's interesting how engaging them really helps you get away from that issue of the bored student. We have another one here where they talk about cost savings being involved in integrating online coursework on a large scale in a brick and mortar district, and grades went up there as well. And here we have one about another one-to-one program in which there was a high rate of issues, 3 police actions a day they were having. And after I'm going through this fast, but they did a lot. So we see here, it wasn't just one-to-one programs, it was intervention classes, online formative and summative assessments, games and simulations, teacher professional development, which can't be overemphasized, the importance. I know I've heard that over and over as I've been working with the website, how we can give all the tech in the world. If we're not giving professional development to the teachers, we're throwing our money away. But they had really impressive results in 2003. And this was over a decade ago, or about a decade ago. In 2003, after they'd been through this process for about a year and a half, the number of police actions dropped to 3 for the entire year. Speaking of professional development, Atomic Learning, who does offer a lot of tools for students, staff, and faculty to learn, they did a study that was focused on the use of their tools to deliver professional development to teachers. So they had they had 6th, 7th, and 8th grades they were working with. They had a very large group of about 1,000 students over 42 classrooms spread across multiple states, in which they gave professional development to some of the teachers and not to the others, and compared a treatment and control group over the course of the year and used a standardized test to measure success. And this graph shows the increase in results for the group that had teachers who underwent professional development in technology integration. And this summarizes some of those results. So on average, students in the treatment group showed about a year's more growth than peers in classes where Atomic Learning was used.